Say your name, please say here. Fowler. Here. Shea.
Here.
Cook.
Here.
Ike.
Here.
Malinsky.
Here.
Peterson is also here. And that means Nieves absent. Next item on the agenda is just the approval of meeting minutes from November. So hopefully everybody had a chance to look them over. Have any questions or comments? Now's the time to bring them up. Otherwise, just need a motion to approve.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
I also say yes. So November minutes are approved. And I abstained because I wasn't there with it. Fair enough.
Andrew, if I could just throw in a comment.
Yeah,
I don't know
270
how many people
everyone
are
in
planning to
capital
go to
R.
the parade at 6:30 tonight.
Yeah.
My hope is we can kind of fly through this and maybe by 6:20 or thereabouts get you out of here.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Kiddos would like that.
All right. So next up is just public comment. If anybody's here and doesn't have something on the agenda that you'd like to bring up, now's the time. No? All right, then we'll move into old business. So first item up is 204 West 9th Street.
Are you Rachel?
Yeah.
Good. You guys are up.
If you want to join us at the table, you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can just hang out too.
Here, and I can scoot down some.
Yeah.
Get your images up here on what you're proposing to do. Okay. Let's see what all we've got lined up here. Okay, so there's,
The existing door, and then is this the door that's you're doing, or?
that's the existing door. It's a
Right.
detail on the existing door. And this is the proposed door, but you're also talking about, let's see if it shows in this one, talking about an arched window in that door, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then a storm door on the outside of.
So
it,
go
which is
down
this
to the
detail.
other door there, the new door, okay. So it's this door, but the window will be arched instead of square, is that?
Yeah.
We did start the discussion of this last time. One of the questions that I recall coming up was, this comes in with the casement around it, pre-hung. So they're going to be installing it in the opening. And the question was, will this diminish the size of the door, or will the door remain the same size as the current door? And I guess that's the question that I.
It's gonna remain the same,
The door would be the same size.
same size.
And if you remember, here's the detail on the door. Single door steel. And then the proposal is for the storm door to be on the outside of that. And this is the door that they're proposing.
Yeah, thanks for coming to the council. I think we just had we wanted some clarification before we made a final motion based on the images that we saw in the packet and then description. We talked about one of the major ones. I think it was the window design, and then the storm door. So it's just the front. It's the storm door that's in the front, right? So it's the divided light. Upper and lower. And the other big question was the size of the opening, whether it would be reduced or remain the same.
It's gonna remain the same.
Anybody that was here last month think of anything else any other questions? It's not replacing a historically significant
it's
or contributing
replacing a
door.
replacement
Yeah,
that wasn't,
that wasn't really something we were talking
Sure.
about.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We love the old door and wanted it painted.
Yeah. Do those of you who know more about design feel there's a difference between the rounded window and the rectangular window that we've seen one of each of? Is there a preference? Or
Do a picture of the whole house again. I went by it last month, but I forgot to do that again.
Mhm.
See, somewhere we
Just
do.
curious, or is it just the old, the
Probably in the
thing
last
from the
packet.
file photo?
I just,
Yeah.
Yeah, the file, and there wasn't a newer picture of the house.
I just don't like how the glass is too low. Anybody that wants to break in, they can break the glass and put their hand to it.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a fair argument.
Yeah.
And just to remind everybody, I think the initial note in the packet was that to reference standard number 9.
So I guess that's a good question. The question about the rounded arch of the door versus not. The home is contributing, but it's replacing a door that's not
Yeah.
original to the house
Mhm.
anyway, so
Right,
I guess I don't see an issue with.
And I hadn't
I don't
realized
have-
that was lower. There's a reason. I can see that.
Yeah,
If it doesn't diminish the opening of the door, I don't really see an issue with it.
yeah. No, I think we did.
You know, we have 3 daughters, and I would hate for somebody to break into their house when I'm not home.
Wouldn't want anyone to break in, period. I don't.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And if you are.
Yeah.
The glass being tiny,
that.
yes.
Nice. Well, it seems pretty straightforward to me. I'll make a go at it. So, what'd you say, Secretary of Interior Standard 9 is what we were
Yes.
aiming for?
Packet.
And
Yeah.
include the storm door in the motion.
So I move to approve application for COA submitted per testimony 204 West 9th Street. Okay. Based on local guidelines and Secretary of Interior Standard 9, which states that new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction will not destroy historic materials, features, or spatial relationships that characterize the property. So the door is not historic currently, however, the opening is, I'm assuming, a nod to what was there before, and this is not changing the opening. The new work will be differentiated from the old and will be compatible with the historic materials, features, size, scale, and proportion, and massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment. This project meets the standard for the reasons that I just cited, the fact that it's replacing a door that was not original nor historic. And because the storm door is an addition that can be removed without any detriment to the home as it is, say the door and the storm door.
Support.
All right. Any further discussion? Mark? All right. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
I also say yes. All those opposed say no. Passes. So
Great, thank you.
Thanks for coming back in.
Thank you.
So we will be sending out a certificate of appropriateness to you. So
Okay.
you'll be able to go get it after you get that.
Okay.
money.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah.
You watch your head on the TV.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff, you're up.
First item of new business, 121 West 12th.
Something else going on there.
Yeah.
So I'll let this load here. Okay, here's a photograph of the existing chimney. Chimney is to the rear of the property. You got very familiar with the property last time.
Mhm.
We met and talked about the windows. That is the chimney as it currently exists. This is a view from the street. You can pick it out here. You come at it from the other direction, and there's no, you don't see it at all on that side of the house. And I'll leave the rest to Jeff.
It's not from the original structure. It was probably added in the 50s, I think, or somewhere in there, when they put the addition on the back. That's all, they've updated their heating system. It's no longer used. It's just sitting there, so. You can see it was cut into the eave, to the original house.
Is there any signs, I'm guessing the original chimney went up through the center of the house, is there any, have you seen any?
No, I don't
Because
see.
on houses like that in the
Yeah.
neighborhood, the chimney is always right dead center in the
Yeah.
house, and, yeah, and then often when they, it seems like when they added, furnaces, then they put the, the chimney on the outside, they did that with our house, just cut it into
Cut it in,
the
yeah.
eave, and,
Right.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
personally, I'd say, get rid of that thing.
It's pretty ugly.
Yeah, it's just, they.
So there's no other chimney then? There's
No.
no reason, okay.
Any other questions?
I'd move to approve the application for a COA as submitted and per testimony for the chimney removal at 121 West 12th, based on Secretary of Interior Standard Number 9.
Read that.
I don't really want to read Standard
Okay.
9, do I? Didn't you just read Standard 9?
I did.
You did beautifully, too.
Oh, thank you.
And I was trying to
Was
support
that
you,
a
but I didn't
ditto
think you were
what
going to
she
stop.
said? Oh,
what-
yeah, well, I figure we'll just get it all out of the way at the
Yeah.
beginning, and then anyone else who wants to use it later can say
That's
what she
right.
said.
Just press record. I'll second that.
Now we're-
Okay, Mark, you second.
Yes.
I guess just to clarify, John, you didn't necessarily say this, but the reason you think it meets standard number 9 is because you don't see the chimney as a character defining element, or because it's not original? I guess could you?
Because it's not
Articulate a
original
little bit.
and not character defining.
Okay. Any other conversation? Chimneys sometimes spark more, but
Mhm.
all right. All those in favor say yes.
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 Say yes. Those opposed say no. So motion passes.
Thank you.
And I heard you have another question.
Yeah.
We'll
It's
ad lib a
gonna
little.
be probably a tough one too, maybe, because we talked a little bit together.
Take one on this.
Okay.
about it. But I'm looking at a house to buy in the historical district, and it's fully vinyl. It's all vinyl, and it's all aluminum wrapped windows and storm windows, also aluminum. And I'd like to see if I could at least upgrade the vinyl on it to a different color, so it'll look a lot nicer, for one thing. What's on there now looks really bad. So that's kind of my question. It's like, I don't know when it was put on. My guess that it was probably the vinyl put on like 1972 to 5, somewhere in there.
Let me broaden his question a little bit. Probably a day or two after he raised the question to us, I got a call from somebody else who has the house on the corner of Washington Boulevard, the northeast corner of Washington Boulevard and 16th Street. The house has been vinyled, the garage has not. They would come back to, they may want to come in and replace the wood windows in the garage, but we'll talk about that some other time. But they may be interested in replacing the vinyl siding on that house with new vinyl siding. So I think in both cases it probably reflects a change in color. Without seeing detail of the vinyl siding itself and whether it matches existing, I don't know that level of detail, but the real question in my mind is, I've been under the understanding that the interpretation has been, if you've got vinyl, you can replace vinyl. And I don't know if that's accurate or not as a general given in this.
I think as a loose statement, it's accurate. Again, dimensional questions obviously would be a concern. The assumption is that the vinyl was added before it ever became part of the district. So,
Yeah, I mean, we're not supposed to make precedent-setting decisions, but we've voted on things like this before, where it was vinyl replacement. We usually went through all the same series of questions. If you looked at what was underneath, if there was anything there, you know, what the goal was, but ultimately it came down to like for like replacement issue, and as long as the dimensions or things like Kim just brought up matched.
So from a staff perspective,
Is that what your note
well, yeah.
summary is?
Yeah,
You see
what
it as
I
a
just
like for
handed
like.
out, it doesn't, when you're replacing all of the siding, it doesn't sound like ordinary maintenance, as ordinary maintenance is
Mhm.
defined. But because it's like material for like material, we say that on just about everything else. It's a similar sort of replacement. But in terms of staff reviewing it, then I see this maybe as a need for at least an administrative review. And if it turns out that it's like for like and dimensionally it's similar, very close to similar, then we would then proceed without a certificate of appropriateness and say that doesn't require that review. But if we discovered they wanted to do 6-inch vinyl clapboards instead of 3-inch or whatever, then it's a change in character, and then it would require a certificate of appropriateness.
I still think we wanna see it.
Should we vote on that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a
I-
question, yeah.
Because of the comment about it not being precedent, we haven't
Yeah.
done precedent setting. And again, it's like, this is where if we don't keep some structure, if you weren't in the role that you were in, you know, and we weren't in the roles that we were in, if all of a sudden down the line it was just assumed you could replace vinyl for vinyl without like some pretty stringent standards around it, you could end up with kind of a mess on our hands.
Like a slippery slope
Yeah.
situation where that takes on broader definitions and
Interpretation. I guess that would be
That'd be your vote.
that would
If
be-
we were voting on whether we.
If we were
review
voting,
it.
that would be my vote. At least until we had a cadence of, I mean, if we had had 6 or 8 of these come through and had a cadence, even though it's not precedent setting,
Mhm.
but had a cadence where this was an issue, then we would probably learn too, as a commission, where there were sticky spots, or what kind of issues homeowners had about what they could or couldn't do with replacing vinyl for vinyl. We'd probably learn something in the process that we hadn't thought about. What if there was an addition at the same time? I mean, so,
Yeah, it's usually, is it tied to window replacement and trim
It's
work
color.
too? Or
Yeah, it's color.
It's just color.
Yeah.
Mm.
It would improve the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Sure.
yeah, it's, I mean, it seems,
Yeah.
When you do that, Jeff, do you usually do something different at the corners that isn't that sort of L shape?
Well, there's quite a few options, right?
Okay.
You know, we could go through that, you know, at a later date, you know, how to make it look. Well, Canuster's house is a good
Yeah,
example.
I was just gonna ask
Across
about
from
that,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
have
if
that
when you
thought.
drive by Canuster's house,
Mhm.
it looks like it's wood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
for
it
the
looks like
benefit
it's-
of everybody, what is the address of Canuster's house? Because I don't know the
It's
Canuster's.
It's like 151 West 12th Street, something
That
like
would-
that.
Yeah, 151.
Yeah.
And the corner
Right
boards
across the
are
street from my house.
cedar or some kind of wood?
It was, we used
Party.
Versatech, which is a PVC product,
Oh, it is, okay. Wow.
which it looks just like wood.
It does look like wood.
Yeah,
Mhm.
smooth and looks like it's.
Is it pre-finished?
120.
151.
Well, you can only-
I thought it was
White.
151,
Right.
it's close to that.
Mhm.
Oh, maybe not.
So in terms of process, I'm sensing, at least
It's the
from Kim,
it's the
that she'd
fourth
like to see
house
these come in
east
for a
of
certificate of
Maple on
appropriateness,
the north side of the road.
with probably a tendency towards approval, but they need to demonstrate the kinds of things you were just describing, the kinds of details and what Jeff was just describing. Is that a fair interpretation of Kim
Ye-
at this point?
Yeah, but that's just of me. I mean, there
Yeah.
are 6 other
Yeah.
commissioners, so I just think, I mean, at first blush, I'm like, yeah.
Well, here's the thing, is that, okay, let's take the vinyl off and then, you know, have the option to either do wood, bring it back, or to have vinyl put back over it again. I mean, that would be another, obviously, meeting in itself. I guess to spend a ton of money to buy this house and then not have the approval to change the color,
Yeah.
be kind of not, I'd really like to change the color.
You can make an application without owning the house,
Can you?
Mhm.
Okay.
so if that helps get to a decision, I
Yeah,
know you.
that's good to know.
Yeah, one thing process wise is those instances where there's vinyl on top of original wood, what happens then? Because then you take the vinyl off and now you've got it back.
Yeah, see, the
Kind of
thing is, when you
partially.
take that off, there's a ton of holes in it, and they chop the sills off, you know, to
Oh,
wrap.
yeah, to wrap
So,
the vinyl.
I mean, it gets a little harder to put it back together as far as just, it's a lot of work. You know, when I did my house, I tore all the siding off and put new siding on, and stained it instead of painted it, so that's a big difference too, you know.
I don't have
So,
I don't have an issue with replacing vinyl for vinyl. I just think that until I just think that there will be things that we all learn as a commission to.
You know,
Through
and
the process.
I've always
Yeah.
leaned towards historical.
Yeah.
It's not like I haven't, that's how I've always done.
Right, this
things.
isn't about you, this is really about
Right,
like
process.
everybody else who comes at, because if it's
You
like,
know,
oh, it's
it'd be
brick and
wonderful
mortar.
to take that house and turn it back into wood.
Oh, yeah.
It would.
I kind of like the thought of that.
Yeah.
But
And we-
I wasn't
Come and
aware
ask.
of the,
Right.
what
Here's
happens
a good
underneath,
example.
you know.
When I took all the stuff off Canuser's house, it was shot.
Mhm.
You know, the siding was shot, right, so.
Well, and we had someone come before the commission who took everything off thinking they were gonna replace, and then they ended up seeing that the wood wasn't that bad. Now, that was that was probably a once in a lifetime kind of thing, cause I think majority of the time it is probably shot.
we also had a really compelling case where the family wanted a certain color in vinyl set, and it was only available in the vinyl
Right.
setting. So I kind of agree with Kim. I think even though it may be an easy approval when it's a like for like, it might be better to just bring it to as an application for education and consensus.
Yeah, but it seems I mean, there's nothing in it that says no. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but.
So since this is technically not an agenda item, do you just want us to go around the table and weigh in?
See if there's a consensus.
Because right now I apologize, I missed the meeting where we finalized what you can approve and what we can't approve. But since it's like for like, you could approve it without coming to the COA. So this would, as a COA, so this would be an amendment to that.
Well,
We didn't get to that.
document.
Yeah, we didn't get that far on
We
it.
decided we wanted it all to be
Okay.
here.
And that's been my interpretation, my understanding of how it's gone in the past, but as Kim says, there's lots of different varieties of applications.
Okay. So I guess Kim and I have weighed in. To the rest of you guys want to weigh in?
I'd like to see it come to the group.
When you get one more, that's a quorum.
I think
So we're
I would
probably-
like to see it come to the group too.
Okay.
Just, I don't know why, but my gut tells me that.
Yeah, same here. Same here.
And hopefully learning just that you could do an application before you own the property would sort of help you.
Yeah,
do it.
right.
Yeah. Probably-
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
You know, I mean, obviously, we're all here for the interests of everybody, you know,
Mhm.
not for the whole block and, you know, for future, right? So,
Okay.
okay.
Good, thank you, Nick.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. So next up is. Might be into it. Maybe.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh.
284
Uh-huh.
West 11. Hi guys.
I like the four squares with
Thanks.
the bullseye.
That's a really pretty one.
I know.
I have the printed version.
I do
This
love
is in the
that.
snow. You've all received the app, there we go. Great. Let's start with these. Just the existing, we've got 3 or 4 sheets of existing, what was approved last time, and then what is being proposed as either additional changes or modifications to that approval. So on the north elevation, that was the original condition. It was approved like this, and the E's are existing openings?
Existing openings, yes.
Existing openings, and this was a new?
Yes. It was a door,
opening
then
we
it became
would
a
see
window.
from- Okay,
That's-
and this time around,
Just the door, I think, is the only thing.
Yeah,
that's
it
changed.
should have been new. The head height right now of
Bless
the
you.
door is that low compared to the windows that are adjacent, and since that space will be all opened up, there's not quite enough room for a transom above, which would be cute, it's not the right size. But we could pull the door up so that it's at the same head height within an inch of the windows, so it's not squatty. That particular door they're currently holding shut with scaffolding, because it doesn't lock anymore or fit in the opening, and it's quite thin, just a single pane glass.
Okay.
So new rough opening and a new,
No, it's just a door.
Well,
Well, a new head height,
New head height.
but the same width.
Yeah.
And the one thing we did add in this, after we at least chatted with Phil just to see if this configuration would be helpful to you since we're making changes to it.
Mhm.
We added in the air conditioner so that you could see the high efficiency furnace will stay, but the air conditioner will be relocated. So you won't have that be your prominent view of this side of the house, which will also be nice.
So that is as you approved it, focus back in here, I think
Yep, those,
particularly.
yep.
And this is as proposed now. It moves that door onto this back wall right there, so you'd see it from the rear elevation.
And we decided as a team that maybe the gutter and downspout would be helpful only at the back half of the house. Otherwise, we'll have some water issues, and the grade is quite low, quite close to the house finished floor, so this way we can pull some of the water away.
Now, one other change that doesn't exactly show up on this, all of the porches will be concrete,
Yes, so
concrete surface.
one of the reasons why, and you can look, we've got one picture which I could pass around. There's only one step really into the house, so there's not enough room for it to be wood. So we had thought it'd be really cute to have a skirt board and then have wood on top, but in the end, we actually sort of lose a riser once we regrade it. So you can pass this one around. That side view, we'd only have one riser and the wood would just rot. So we're thinking concrete would be cleaner and more like some of the houses on 10th Street. And would probably wear much better. And also we've got some foundation issues where they did some demo of the porch that was approved before and it's crumbling a bit, so I think we can patch things back together a little bit better with concrete.
Okay, so once that door was relocated, then they moved around some things on the interior, which then caused them to make some adjustments of the location of the windows.
and can you scroll up to image one? So they were already, like, we had already approved new window locations.
Right.
Yes, and new window
Previously.
sizes and
Yeah.
everything else. I personally like the Y, so not to interrupt what you're doing, but what we found is that there are multiple structural walls. If you turn to page 2 of this set, you can see the plan. We don't normally give you floor plans because I know that's not sort of part of your overall approval process. But the roof that's right here is being supported from the walls on both sides. So we end up with a kind of unusual structural condition underneath. So the stair wall and the wall between these two both need to stay. There's a lot, they just spanned across in between and it didn't create its own ridge beam support. So there are a fair number of posts coming down in both of those locations. So we couldn't move the stairs like we had planned to, which was taking the kitchen to be at the back end. Now that's gonna be the master bedroom.
So it caused us to basically flip the whole layout because of the structural needs inside the house.
So the orange lines are all the structural that we want to keep and feel like we need to keep. And they opted for the slightly narrower existing stair width so that we wouldn't have to modify any of those structural walls. So that's the why.
Was the master bedroom, like, kind of thought of as being upstairs originally?
No, it was at the front of the house
It was-
originally,
oh.
so we were going to have it on the 11th Street side. But it wouldn't work to have the kitchen at the back once we realized where the structural walls were. We ended up with 3 structural walls right in a row, instead of just having 2, which we had anticipated. And I think it'll be nice because it means that at the front of the house, we can keep more of the windows too, because it'll be in the kitchen. So we've rearranged the kitchen so we can keep all the front windows as well, on that north side.
And didn't the windows get more consistent
They did.
through this change than what they were originally, the smaller windows back there? I think the way it was approved this way, we just remade them. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but.
Yes, so we felt like we were just flipping the way the kitchen, because it had been in the back of the house before. If you go up just a little bit, Phil. The other way.
The other row?
Those were at the kitchen
Mhm.
before.
Mhm.
So we
That's
were
your
like,
sink
oh, what would be
windows.
consistent is just to move them to the other side. But they didn't actually look great, and they didn't make the front facade look terrific. And we ended up with sort of a lot of choppy windows here. So I think it's much more like it was before. And then we could pull the same height all the way across, because these will be on either side of the bed in the bedroom now. So that whole facade, I think, will be a lot more like it was intended to be in the beginning.
That's kind of nice too, to move that. The reason I asked about the master bedroom is to move it back from the street probably feels a little bit more private. And it's not very often that this house, this kind of house has that master suite on the main floor, but that's great for, you know, aging in place and accessibility and things like that too. So it's a little unusual that the kitchen's so far up front, but it's kind of novel to have that.
Thanks. And it did have a bedroom on the main floor and a bathroom on the main floor, but in a really odd way.
Yeah.
And the kitchen had to be gutted, so.
Okay, south elevation,
That's
that
raised.
was original,
Yeah.
that was as approved at your last meeting. And then here is additional changes, here are additional changes. So there's the door into that back portion that was moved to the side.
And this faces what will be the driveway, is now the driveway, but also will be the driveway. We didn't change any of the exterior structural walls of the house, so it doesn't have an addition or any changes in that capacity. But this will be a little more private view to the road. It backs up to someone else's driveway as well.
And that is the master
Shared.
closet and master bath are back in that piece, so.
And there you can start to see all the roof lines and how they kind of come together.
And then on the east side, that's original, prior to the application. This is as you approved last time. And then this is the revision to that. It's essentially the window here, and then the change in windows and door location at this end. And the gutter on this back portion of the house again, gutter and downspout.
And there you can see the air conditioner too. It'll get off the main road.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
the new
that's good.
location of the air conditioning. We also included in your packet new exterior doors. We've got Therma-Tru brand 8-foot tall glass, fiberglass stained finish, 2/3 light and clear glass. Mentioned the porches, the east side landing poured concrete. Existing windows are vinyl. They propose replacing all existing vinyl windows with new triple pane vinyl. All operable windows will be fitted with an exterior screen matching the exterior window color. The one awning window will also have a screen, but will be an interior screen. No storm windows are proposed. So on the front elevation, there's a new door, side elevation, side west elevation, modification of windows, and related door placement. Covered all of that. Rear and south, shifted the door, removed the rear door and shed roof while adding 3 smaller windows. East side, relocated a new door and 2 larger windows instead of the smaller, narrower windows. And we reviewed all of that. We have requested further detail on the following. Sample or detail on the vinyl windows, and then any exterior storms or screens. Well, there won't be storms. So a cut sheet on the screen would
I'm looking to see if I
be
can
all we
find it.
need on that.
I think they're just integral screens, you know, the ones that pop out as part of it, so.
Okay.
And the brand of window is what was recommended by the home improvement group.
Do I have these in here?
Yeah,
Let's see.
they're every one
The
is.
one that Ken works with?
Yeah, that, Ken, so we asked Ken to send
That's
the
right, we've got
information.
all
Which brand did
different
Ken say?
He's-
So I can steal his wisdom?
Well,
It's-
It's in the
yeah,
larger
it's
bag.
the-
Provia.
They have like 3 different
Yeah.
contractors that can do the assessments, and the one that does most all of them, WMG
Yep.
or whatever, this is their guy and this is their brand, and according to him, this product here,
It's the
most
most efficient.
Nice.
quality stands up to Anderson and Pella, but, you know, I'm not a window guy, so.
And we had asked for approval of Pella before because we didn't know they were gonna go through the home energy audit and all of that, so that's why we switched. They're calling it Endure from Provia.
Endure. Oh, Endure.
They will be considerably nicer than the ones that are in
Hmm.
now.
Did you get the roof on, yet?
Oh,
or-
yes.
Going on today.
It's coming, I saw the
It'll be done
tarp,
by the end of the week.
yeah, well, you had that windy Wednesday when I saw those guys up there, and I thought, not me.
Yeah, they worked through the weekend last week.
Yeah, no, we were struggling on that day.
I'm trying to scan the packet just for a summary to help guide us through. So I think basically we need to come to consensus on the doors, the gutters, the new windows that are on the table, and then the porch changes, which is primarily the materiality, concrete, as opposed to wood. Did I miss
The
anything?
general relocation of doors and windows.
Okay. So I feel like that might be the easiest one to start with, or a good one, since we just looked at the elevations, right? Did anybody see anything that we want to talk about further with regards to the new proposed window opening locations, new doors? I think the only thing I noticed is I think you were planning to reuse a door on the back previously, and now that's just that one went away, and now we're just going with basically all new doors around the whole house, right?
We decided to have all the doors be exactly the same, so
Okay.
that they would be new.
Uniformity.
They would be uniform. They're cute doors, they're just, if you pushed hard, I think they break right apart, so what
The
they.
existing ones?
The existing ones.
Okay.
So what they've decided instead is to keep the interior doors and refinish those, and then have consistency on the exterior doors.
Okay. That makes sense to me, and I don't think we have a door cut sheet, but I think we do have a description.
There's a.
Therma True brand 8-foot tall fiberglass. There it is. We do have one that's in the pocket.
Yeah.
And it's in my hands. Okay, so from an openings, I guess let's say from a elevation standpoint, and the door cut sheet's going around standpoint. Anything else to discuss? We can talk about the windows after. Alright, it's quiet. So the windows, the cut sheets are in the packet. It is in line with what we approved before, it's just a different manufacturer.
Right.
Exactly.
So
And it's comes from the energy
Recommendation of the energy
retrofit,
president.
and Ken, I know, is sympathetic to historic district
mentions, yeah.
concerns generally too. Not that it's totally exactly what we typically want or whatever, but I know that he's very much aware of, the quality of these from a historical district perspective when he puts a product forward. And I'm assuming he's had his hands on these more than I've never looked at them up close, but the big detail that I always look for there is how many extra lines does like a crummy Geldwin have that it doesn't really need, to that make the jam bigger, and then the the actual sort of inset frame bigger than it needs to be. And those look really nice and slim.
Nick's a fan.
Yeah, I am. I think they look
That's
good.
good.
And if WMGB and Ken think they're good from a performance standpoint, I'm probably going to look into those more.
Okay.
Could I just talk a little bit about that west elevation? I go by this house almost every day, and I loved even taking the porch off when you revealed the siding, in that corner. It just was so nice to see the narrow siding again. It's just fun to see. When I look at the middle elevation and then, the what was now being proposed, I liked personally the sort of symmetry of the porch line in the front and the back, and maybe a little bit of the massing of the windows. When I look at the bottom one, the new one with the porch gone and the windows, I assume they're there for the interior more than the exterior, but I don't know. I just react to that, and this is the prominent, elevation that you see on Vinralty, and I don't know if anybody else has
Can you scroll it up?
Sorry.
reaction to that.
He's submitting
The porch is
original.
gone, the door is moved to that side, so.
Right, but the porch on the back of the house is
Oh.
removed. It's we already removed the middle porch, which we approved, but now that back porch is going away.
This side.
There's a porch, and now it's just to the steps.
Right, you're not seeing from the west elevation. You're no longer seeing a porch at the back of the house, right?
And you see that from Brown Royalty, you're saying? You see
Yeah,
that?
you walk. I mean, that's the whole visual that you walk by when you go on Vinralty, which is the dominant visual thing because it faces Vinralty, and when I look at it, it seems really different now without that little porch on the back. But porches come and go, I know.
Are you saying that this elevation is reading from Vinralty?
Yeah.
Yes,
Correct.
yeah, that's.
And
that's
the
the
south porch you're talking about?
Yeah, if you now move it down to the new, the porch on the south, right, is gone, so
Yeah.
that
Yes,
porch,
exactly.
I kind of just personally like the two porch view, you see it sort of seemed to bring it together for me, but.
There's a fence there now which we didn't show, which actually intersects that elevation.
Mhm.
And there will be a new garage.
Right,
was approved
that
last
the
time.
auxiliary
And
garage and stuff will be there, yeah.
the one caveat I would say is that AutoCAD drawings, which is how this is drawn, are pretty ugly and they flatten everything in a way. So we don't get the depth of the shadow line
Yeah.
of things popping back. We did consider putting a shed on the back windows, which will now be in the bathroom and in the closet. But it felt like maybe it was faking it a little bit, like then we weren't delineating the old from the new and we
Sure.
were trying too hard.
Yeah.
That's true.
I appreciate you voicing your opinion, Mark. I might offer my own.
Yeah,
at the
good,
same time.
yeah.
I don't think that portion is necessarily part of the original home, so I think it's
The little porch that's.
the whole bump out that is becoming.
Oh, yeah, for the
That
original
is-
part of the, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if you're
Yeah.
a purist or whatnot, but you could make a case that
Yeah.
it's okay to differentiate it a little bit from
Yeah.
vocabulary from the
Yeah.
main home. And to Amy's point, I think if you're walking at a perspective, you'll see the door and the window
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in relationship to
Yeah.
each other. So there's still kind of a sense of arrival
Sure.
that happens at the top of the stairs. Yeah, I guess that's my opinion. I like that it prioritizes the front porch.
Mhm.
Anybody else feel strongly?
Is this one where we talked about the headers of the porch, like back in June?
Yes,
It
we,
is.
and
You looked at it and it didn't work
Right,
out.
there wasn't enough room for the.
Okay.
well, and what we will do, it will be more dressed up than in this
Okay.
elevation. So we did put a detail of the column that you guys approved last time with some of the massing of it. And then there will be some trim that goes around. What happens when we draw it that way is that because it's not in perspective, then it goes in front of the windows. So there will be a soffit. We're hoping to be able to open up the ceiling of the porch, and then there'll be some trim that comes around. So it's what we talked about last time too, is it's a little bit schematic in the fascia of that component.
How deep is that porch?
It's in your site plan, 10 feet from the house on both sides, which means that it only comes out, let's say it's either 6 or 4 feet past the front of the house. Here, you can pass this around too, if it's easier to get to it printed. And it was within the setbacks, but we felt it could have gotten bigger, but it felt like then the slope would be too shallow. So we wanted to
Right.
keep it to at least a 3/12 pitch.
Well, that's what I was thinking about in our last conversation about it, is that the deeper you go, the less it matches the house based on your window header depth. Meaning, if you go further and further and you want that proper slope, it's gonna bring that header of the porch down to be lower than the window headers, which is like an indication that the DNA of the house wants only a certain depth of porch, and beyond that depth, it kind of doesn't match anymore. But
I think we found the sweet spot, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the difference will be about a 3-inch. It's just that it comes down past the trim, but not past the head height. So the trim of the porch will match the trim of the windows, but when you go to the front elevation or the north elevation, if we had drawn it that way, then you couldn't
you
see
would
the
cover up
windows.
the header of the windows.
Yeah, but you see that we have the space for it, so it's a little bit of a, we made a graphic choice.
Uh-huh.
You wouldn't have been able to see the trim there, but you can see that we have 3.5 inches before we get to the head height of the windows. So there is room for some trim.
So then the column, the post tops would come down by,
Yes.
say, 3 inches or something
Exactly.
to have a little header for the porch.
Right.
I'm just curious, did you look at that porch's sort of setback, effective setback distance relative to other porches that were along there? And is that where they kind of land, or is this sort of where it was, or?
It is very close to where the rest of them are. We had the setbacks for the whole neighborhood. We looked at the ones on the same side of the street too.
Yeah.
And because it's an open porch, there's a much different feel than if it had been enclosed all the way around. Certainly I would not want a future HDC to approve enclosing this porch. It's meant to certainly be an open, airy feel.
I guess we approved this last time, but I do like that little window in that gable more than that door that was there. That was nice.
Yeah.
There are a lot of them in Michigan. I don't know why people did it. They are just terrible water hazards and they're safety hazards, and you end up having to put a railing on it for the insurance, and it rots, so.
Yeah.
The window will be nice.
Okay, we need to talk about the gutters and the foundation wall for the porch material, yeah. Maybe while we're on the porch, so the surface is now going to be concrete horizontally, and then you're talking about refacing potentially. Did I follow that right? Patch and repair?
We don't have room, so we're showing, now that we've looked at the grade, it was sinking, so we
Yeah.
did measure it to the grade of the dirt, but the water had brushed it away in such a way that it's actually 4 to 6 inches taller once they backfill.
Okay.
So we lose one riser, which means there's just not enough room. By code, you're supposed to have the siding be 6 inches away. We wouldn't even have 6 inches. So it feels like a riser to concrete would be cleaner
Mhm.
and keep us from having to have some sort of like teeny tiny lattice work or something around.
And then the foundation was kind of crumbling on that one side, which we thought
Right.
the concrete would.
Here, if you look at page 1 of your packet, you may see, oh no, it's page, no, it's not this page.
I got 3 pictures of that.
Oh.
Up
It's
close
the
and personal.
4th page, there's something we call the unexplored crawl space. You can't access it, so we didn't know what was there or how deep the foundation was. The whole foundation had been stuccoed on the outside, and you can't see it from the inside. So when they did demo of the porch, they saw that it was just sort of crumbling brick with almost at grade. So the hope is to repair that.
Here's, maybe this will help you a little bit. This is a view of what the corner of the porch looks like today. The bricks, and that's not something that can't just be, I mean, obviously, you know, you can relay that back in there, but it's not awesome. So I love the idea of encapsulating it in a way that it's weatherproof for a long time.
Yeah, and I think concrete in general is a nice neutral and kind of austere material. It's not this extravagant masonry decorative thing that doesn't really fit the house.
Plus the existing house, as many houses have, they have that layer of skin coat, like right here today, that's all like a concrete skin coat, so it looks,
Yes.
it'll just look the same kind of.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't come down to the detailing of the edge conditions that planks do or things like that too, so it's a little less fussy. All right, any other questions about the porch material, porch in general? So I think just the last one, on the gutters, looks like there's two shapes on the packet, so is there a preferred one?
Oh, I did not
Or
see
You just tell
maybe
us
I
what
just
to
saw
do.
two
You can tell us
pictures.
what you think would be best. Gutters are, I was hoping for the cleanest, prettiest gutters in the world, and that is just not necessarily an option, and we're not gonna do copper. The profile, I think the lower would be, the less curvy, the better. This looks like it's
Like PVC pipe.
yeah, it's PVC pipe or something awful,
So ignore the top image.
yeah. What we did is called the contractor we might be
Yeah, I
using,
like
to
those.
find out who they
It's
use
PVC, but
when they do
Right,
their
for
height
Do you like the
scales.
shape?
I'm
Yeah.
assuming, whatever, aluminum. But they form it on the field, in the field, so. Yeah, the second one, the non-white PVC.
the K style. I think both of those profiles are nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think the half rounds at the top are nice from a profile standpoint. The materiality is probably what everybody's cringing at or reacting to. And then the K-style is also something that I think we've accepted.
I would say it's what you would prefer. The nice thing about the PVC is that it can be snapped off in the winter if there are problems with ice standing.
I'd have to see some PVC gutter to know if it looks too like industrial and not really residential looking, but in general, that half round is very nice.
A plus B always equals C. I like the top. I like the architecture, the lines of the top, but and painted aluminum. I don't know if you looked into that. Or pre-finished aluminum.
It
I think we
wasn't,
had
they
it
don't,
on-
I guess,
one house that
until
had it.
they're farther through the process, they don't really give you options.
Gotcha.
On the front porch, could you imagine a very short stretch of copper gutter right over the walk-up so that there's not a wash scenario when it's raining on the visitor who walks up there that could match that back gutter in profile, but sort of be elevated hierarchically and just like this nice little moment? Is it, you know what I mean?
It's possible. I do wonder if in the rain, people might come up the other set of stairs where the roof is shorter, so there's less, and the water's pouring the other direction. So there are two doors next to each other that would both be protected
Oh.
on that Van Raalte side.
Well, I was thinking on the other side.
On the 11th Street side?
Yeah.
Certainly, I think a gutter in the same shape could wrap around the front porch. I'd want it probably to be the same material so that they matched each other.
I don't know, so just, this isn't historic related, but from my perspective, I don't really like the way gutters look, but I also, the foundation's brick, and I see why people make water go away from the house. So my deal is whatever you guys say we can do and should do, we'll probably just do.
And I guess in the interest of getting where are you guys at in the process? Like, could we
We're a
approve
long ways away
the
from
gutter and the
it.
downspout locations, and could come back to us with an actual profile or
Yes,
something that fits your budget? And if we gave general aesthetic opinions, like
Yeah, I mean, my last
profiles
comment was
and-
purely aesthetic.
well, and then you guys can noodle on it and think about whether
When maybe
you want to integrate
Right.
gutters and downspouts in other parts of the building. But I think if we probably don't prefer PVC, fair, or we don't know enough about it.
I would have to
That's maybe what we need
I'd
to
like
say.
to see it.
The K style, the metal painted, pre-finished metal K style, and then the half round. Those are both very acceptable profiles. So I think we would probably approve either one of them. It's just you guys tell us what you want. And I think the gutters at the rear of the home. I mean, it's only been recently that we've really tackled very many gutter applications. But all right, that's you guys already put them in sort of a lower priority area of the home anyway. Nick's proposal is when it takes it into that materiality conversation usually, right? And if you're
Yeah,
gonna
it was
put it in the
clear.
front,
It was
coppers,
definitely just a food for thought suggestion.
design element
Well, and
mixed with function a little bit.
I'd love to, I'm noodling over that. I worry about the downspouts too.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
So
It comes
then
with a
it's like, oh, we're
downspout.
trying to keep a minimalistic look with really simple columns. Well, then 2 of the columns are gonna have downspouts, like somehow wrapping, or you're gonna have chains coming down.
Yep.
and is
Chains
it-
can be kind of fun, and I guess my suggestion was that it would be only 3 feet of gutter, and it would just be over the walk up, so it would only be one downspout, not around the whole porch.
It's just that you have the,
You'd have a downspout.
downspout.
Yeah.
so.
You could build a diverter in.
A
over
little
that.
portico kind of,
Well, even just in the roof itself.
a little
so that
dam
water
thing.
Goes around basically.
Yeah, where my
Like
comment
what you're
is
saying.
coming from is basically I've seen where there's just this little, it's just a little sort of moment where there's gutter and there's a clear intentionality around that wash, and it's a special material. It's almost like in lieu of a portico that sheds the water, it's like this little sort of halfway compromise point, and it's just kind of, I was just curious if
Like if it would be a charming part.
Y-
Well,
yeah.
I worried too that you wouldn't see that at the same time as you saw the
you
gutters
would,
on the
no,
back.
you would see,
So
you
we
would
would
not.
feel it but not see it. I think from a functionality point of view, having the gutters and downspouts be as quiet as possible on the back side of the house, on that south side, would be something we wanna make sure that they can, if you can accept and approve. And I think the K-style is probably the easiest to blend in. And then maybe we can think through a bit more the front porch, and it might be that they need to go a season, see how the water and rain do, see how the snow
Yeah.
does on a roof, because of course that won't be heated. So will it just stay and then create ice? It might be worth
Living it.
coming back for that one.
Do you have them on the AD? Do you have gutters in? I don't think you did.
We didn't do any in there, because there's a gable at the front, so.
It's not required.
Right. And with garage doors, you're already in your car driving under it, so it's less of an issue.
Okay, I think we talked through everything that I saw on the application. So at this point, if we have any other questions for them or any thoughts on a motion, that's probably next steps. It's a big packet.
Sorry.
We can go slow if we need to.
I'm gonna crack that window.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be
Great.
nice.
Yeah.
I saw you guys the third floor.
Hopefully this is the last.
We're gonna spend a lot of money on this house, but the people that really know me know that I'm really cheap, so when we found out we had to flip-flop the inside around a little bit, I wasn't overjoyed about this. But now that we've landed where we've landed, I'm very excited about it, and I'm good with it, so. I wasn't excited about it, but now I feel like it's the exact right thing, so. Now I am.
It's fun to see it evolve.
Yeah, it's entertaining.
We can say that, we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun for us to sit here and poke at it.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
the
really.
roof alone
Spend your
makes
money.
it a lot better right
I've been in
now.
it,
For
it's
us
awesome.
personally, we're
You
excited
have
about
to
it.
see the bones, but it's
I remember
awesome.
the story. It was like totally trashed, wasn't
Oh,
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
dirt basement. and-
I just looked at the inside of the structure and they had to reinforce a lot of the roof back there because so much water was getting in that it was really bowing in badly. And it was
From before.
From before.
And just to clarify, it was piles of feces.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
remembered.
It's okay for you to remember it.
Thank you for that clarification. Duly noted in the minutes.
Yeah.
Really rare.
End of the minute.
And that's not a material we use much anymore. so It's historic, however.
Alright, so
All right, I guess just to the end of all this, Phil always kind of guides us to look at certain standards. So he pointed us back to standard 9 again. I think pretty much everything that we're talking about has to do with new additions or exterior alterations.
Mhm.
And just subtle materiality or manufacturer changes.
Okay, so if I were to make a motion, it would be to approve the proposed changes to the previous COA.
For the windows,
Yeah.
right?
Windows, doors, gutters, and porch as well.
Yes,
Okay.
the windows and the door, and the gutters and porch are new.
So this is,
That's the way
it's not a new COA, it's just a revision to the existing.
For the first two, the windows and the doors.
Yep.
And then the second two are new additions to that, but those can go into the same COA or whatever.
Gutters would be
Good.
added in, and then the porch materiality, well, that was a change to the original also, because we approved a material.
I'm gonna try to stumble through a motion then.
Go for it.
We'll go.
We'll help you.
Yeah.
I move to approve the application for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted per testimony and per testimony for
284 West
Two-
11th.
284 West 11th Street based on the local guidelines and the Secretary of Interior Standard number 9.
Previously read.
Previously read on, yep. And I'll just add the stipulation that these are to be revisions to the COA that was provided in June of 2009 or 2019.
I'll support the motion.
And I'll add in that the standard, it meets that standard. I'm just going to read the standard then. Because new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction will not destroy historic materials, features, spatial relationships that characterize the property. And I think we talked about maybe what those changes look, what they are, and we agree, that they're, that they don't destroy. They don't have a detrimental impact on the house or the block. So that would be my interpretation of that statement within Standard 9. And the new work will be differentiated from the old, and will be complete with historic materials, feature, size, scale, and proportion, and massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment.
One question for clarification, gutters.
Yeah,
How
the
did
same
you
one.
Mhm.
Do you have a preference towards one type or the other?
No, not in my motion. Nope, they're either K or the half-round style profile. But with I think the materiality we would want to improve. Could that be administrative if we say it's coated powder coated aluminum or whatever that aluminum treated that the K style was shown, but if it's PVC in particular, that we would want to look at it just to see what it.
Okay.
But if it's half round and it's that aluminum.
Is that enough direction?
Mhm.
All right.
What I'm hearing you say is if we can get a profile, send an email, you can either approve it through the committee or
I-
directly through
Phil
Phil.
I think through Phil.
Do most
Okay.
of it for
So
you.
that you don't have to wait for a month or whatever. But
Thanks.
if the PVC, if you look at the PVC and you're like, no, this PVC one is really cool actually, and we'd like to do it, then we could look at it and, yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Because maybe it looks way better in
Probably
person.
budget.
Mhm.
What?
Budget. Money. See.
It's not a lot of gutter and downspouts, and
Right.
it helps
Right.
too.
That's true.
Okay. Any other comments on Nick's motion? I think, John, you already
I did.
seconded it.
Mhm.
Should have added a bunch of other stuff.
After I
Please
approve.
jump at the bit. Pass it on.
All right, then, let's vote. All those in favor say yes.
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 Council say yes. All opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you, guys, for your time and attention.
Yeah.
Choice.
Well, good luck with this continuing our interesting project.
We'll keep walking by.
Yeah.
That's much
Do you know of
exciting.
anyone that's looking for a house out there? There is a
My other house.
Olive, we're
I
like-
just got a letter.
We sell that.
Oh, yeah.
Really go fast.
Well, we, yes.
You need to
Yeah, welcome.
Okay.
Thanks for your time, Grace. This is obviously important work.
No.
It's your
No.
Oh, yeah, this is private couple.
Oh, interesting. No, they must like your better.
And then they said,
Drive carefully.
anyone else in the
Thank you.
neighborhood,
This
you
one
know,
got applied.
if I knew anyone else in
Yeah.
It's our
the
last,
district.
last new
No,
business.
but I considered doing that when I was moving in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the lights,
I'm gonna start keeping a file.
Yeah, really.
Oh, the night shop is
floors.
Well, I figure I
Okay,
can't
last
afford
one
it, so
is
people don't
101
know.
West 15th. Dwight, you look pretty comfortable.
Hello.
So you want to stay there? You can
I'm
stay
settling
there.
in for the long run.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry
thanks.
about
That's
that.
all right.
Somebody wake him up.
Yeah, really.
Okay.
There's
So,
fresh air by the window if you feel so inclined.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You're a window wider.
okay, that's a
Yeah,
close-up
would
shot
that
of
be
the fixture.
totally good with all
I
of
wasn't
us?
saying you to jump up, Nick.
That's okay.
The fence, and then a couple of nice
That was
shots.
worth it.
Temporarily installed. So this is the view from Pine.
Is this your beer garden? Is that what?
Hmm.
So each of the posts, and you did lower the fence
Yeah, I lowered the fence by 18
by
inches.
18 inches.
I felt a little
So it's,
claustrophobic in there.
so it's a pretty modest light. I was worried, and you know, we were talking about it, whether it was too much light, but when you go out there,
Yeah,
I was impressed with the light level,
yeah.
how it looks.
Just like a cap on the
Yeah.
post almost.
Yeah.
As far as the design goes, all those lights would be lowered to about 3 inches above the actual fence. They're about 7 or 8 inches up now.
So you're gonna cut the posts off a little shorter, is that
Yeah.
what you're saying?
It looks nice.
Should we expect a lighting proposal in the trellis as well?
The percolating?
Yeah, the pergola.
Well,
To be determined.
So what I'm thinking for that is I definitely want to have some string lights underneath there. I mean, is that something that I would need to get approved? Because that's,
Nope.
yeah.
No, my comment was one of interest, not
Okay.
necessarily.
Yes.
Don't read into it.
Yeah.
Did you, when you had the temporary ones up, I don't know what your relationship's like with your neighbors, but any comments or feedback?
You know what? I haven't had any comments. You had mentioned that in the email, Phil. I do need to call Dan and Hillary next door because interestingly, the light doesn't really go down.
Mhm.
It actually reflects up more. So in one of those pictures, you can see how it kind of, the next one, you see that's the Morrison's house right next to me. You can see how it is reflecting up on there. So I do intend to call them and talk to them and make sure that they're not bothered by this. And if they're like, bothered by what?
Mhm.
Then,
Yeah.
Again, it was more just a comment of interest.
You might be able to slip something into the light fixture that blocks that
Side.
side of the light
Oh,
as
that's
well.
a good
thought.
So-
Yeah, we've got a neighbor who would put up those lights in their backyard, and it pretty much looks like, you know, in Christmas Vacation when they plug in all the lights and like,
right,
we close all the blinds on one side of our house now. So.
right,
Although oddly, we're talking about the greenhouse where
yes.
it looks like it's not going in the windows. It's just sort of in between.
It's kind of, right.
I mean,
It's
somehow.
true. It's like right between the first
Mhm.
story and the second story windows.
Can't-
Yeah,
can't
maybe you better
think
not
of
lower the lights.
it.
Get them right at eye level.
Yeah, that's.
But I'm just remembering we had a neighbor once that did something and then they shielded the side toward us and it worked fine. It was-
It looks really nice.
Yeah, I like it.
Mhm.
Agreed.
I think that the neighbor's house, that is something that is worth taking seriously because even if they're okay with it, if another family moved in there and that bedroom upstairs is the nursery, now
Yeah,
you've got light trespass that's creeping up into that, whatever that space is.
right.
And just in general, urbanistically, it's a good practice to have that light more controlled down. So whether it's a little slip that goes in there or whatever. So I think that their consent or if they demonstrate they weren't even aware of it is great, but
Yeah.
it's definitely something to look at.
Yep, I agree.
I'm like a lead pollution guy. You know?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, some people
I
are.
like dark spaces. I
It's
think
not great
nice.
when
can see the
there's light
sky.
coming into your house.
Right.
You know, so
See stars.
I felt that way when those lamp posts first went up. There's one right outside my bedroom window, so I've had to pull the shades. Bugged me at first, but I'm used to it now.
Mhm. My neighbors have down lights on their soffits, and they're on a timer, so they go off at a certain time of night. And I actually like it from a neighborhood security standpoint. It just
Mhm.
gives a little more ambient light to some of the darker areas of tight communities. But everybody has a personal preference.
See, that's a good point too, though, because light just like prevents crime.
it does, but the counterpoint to that is if we light up the whole neighborhood, our eyes don't adjust, and so we can't see in darkness as well as we otherwise would be able to. So it's debatable in terms of like if it actually makes
He
things.
thinks of everything, doesn't he?
No, I've seen this conversation
that.
play out before,
Okay,
and,
yeah.
and it actually your eyes don't adjust as well,
Right,
so
sure.
you're actually more safe. Some people believe you're more safe when your eyes are fully adjusted to pitch black.
They usually like turn a red light on for 15 minutes. And it's like what they do in the Navy.
Oh.
When you go before you go on watch.
Oh, right, yeah, spend time in a red light. Hmm.
And I'm not trying to
We're
argue,
off.
I'm just
So you can see good in the dark. Yeah.
All right, anybody close to a motion? Feel like making a motion?
I'd move to approve the application for a C of A as submitted per testimony for the lighting installation at 101 West 15th Street based on local guidelines and the Secretary of Interior Standard Number 9.
I'll second.
All right. Any other comments or things to write in? And all those in favor say yes.
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 Also say yes, and motion passes.
Wonderful.
Pretty unanimous night.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dwight.
Stay tuned next spring for the pergola.
All right.
Ooh. Can't wait.
Sure.
Forward to that.
All right, good night, everyone.
Good night.
take care.
Okay, I think that takes us to your section, Phil.
Yeah. City greenhouse update, I do not have one for you. I thought we'd have a date for city council, and we do not. So we'll let you know when we get that scheduled. This next one, site plan review, I think with detail in here. This came to my attention because a site plan, when an application comes in for a site plan anywhere in the city, it gets forwarded to everybody in our department and sort of alerts us to a project. Usually they're outside of the historic district, outside of downtown, it's somewhere else, and nobody pays any attention. I shouldn't say that. I don't pay any attention.
You
to
don't
it.
pay attention. You don't need to pay attention.
But this one was downtown, and we've been talking about the downtown historic district quite a bit lately, and oh, these are all going to be sideways.
Yeah.
Let me see. Well, it's the downtown historic district essentially is 8th Street from River to just past College. More just past it on the south side than the north side because that's all been redeveloped. So these two properties fall within the existing historic district, the National Register Historic District. There we go. It's these two buildings. This, according to the information that's in the designation, it talks about this building being non-contributing, this building being contributing, but it also cites at this address a bay window on the left side, which would be the west side of the building, which tells me maybe it was this building that had that address originally, because there's a bay behind this tree.
Right.
Or I don't know what this looked like prior to this siding being installed and whether there was a bay that could have been on this that might have been removed at some point. Probably less likely, but in any event, this is a very nondescript
Yeah.
sort of building, so to call it contributing,
Right, I would have
I
thought
don't think
the other
much
way
of that.
around.
I would have
almost,
too.
yeah.
yeah. My question for you, though, is the Historic District Commission really doesn't have any say in this, but I wanted to bring it to you because we were notified of it. The Downtown Development Authority got a presentation on this this afternoon, and I saw most of the presentation before coming up here. They were very supportive. Let me find the new drawings. Well, before I get to the drawings, part of the question is, I don't think anybody really knows there's a Downtown National Register Historic District.
Totally agree.
So, you know, they acted, it didn't come up at all in the DDA's discussion of this as even a question. And when the applicant filled out this sheet, which they're required to do when they make their application, they check lots of boxes, what they're trying to address in all of these priorities, or they call them principles, although when I ask what is a principle and what does historic preservation over here, what does that principle say, there's no description of it. So it basically says that historic preservation's on this list because it's a good idea. And so are all these others. They're good ideas and contribute to the quality of the community in general, but without specifics. Yeah.
Which checklist is this? This is the city's sustainability checklist?
It is.
Okay.
It gets, yep, and it's
Yep.
submitted with each application. So they check lots of boxes. They're doing lots of things that are interesting. I think the general reception from the DDA was positive. They even raised some questions about the context of the building and whether the balconies, the scale of the balconies was appropriate or not. As I look at this, I see the building, I think it's a nice design. I think it follows West 8th Street, the GDK block, in terms of aspects of this, more than it follows that core historic district
Because this is
portion.
between Central and
College.
College, right? Yeah, north side of the
So
street.
it's not as respectful,
Yeah.
I think, of the historic district portion of downtown. But essentially, it's ground floor retail. They've got garages on the back side, and then access to the retail from the back, and then access up to 5 apartments up above. These are the apartments. Each one's different. It's kind of an interesting layout that they've done. This building next to them is a 1-story building, so this actually is a roof of their own building, of the first floor of their own building, but keeping the setback of the building where it is today on the second floor gives them the opportunity to get lots of windows in here, and so they didn't want
That's
to
this
fill out
little
that space.
space here, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little notch out of the building. And that's okay with the zoning ordinance. There's been a determination that that's okay, contrary to some initial reactions. So there's apartments on the second floor, and continuing up, most of them are 2-story apartments. So the second level of each apartment are primarily bedrooms and extra living space. Off the front, they've got a deck for this unit and a deck for this unit, and they've got balconies on the rear decks, with balconies where it extends beyond the face of the building. So that's the front elevation. Comments from the DDA. They were wondering where they were going to put signs and just how they'd affix a sign, and whether it would be on the wall here in some fashion, or whether they'd add awnings, or just what the configuration. They didn't know yet, hadn't gotten that far. I think the balconies are probably the biggest element to me that is out of keeping with downtown. Plus, they put a brick facade on the whole thing now, so that's a lot of brick facing the street, where under current conditions you don't have that kind of proportion of brick. But having
It
said that, I
does
think it's
feel
a
like
decent
that
job.
genericized West 8
A little bit, I think.
Yeah.
I was walking past the courtyard hotel yesterday, I think, and I know all those balconies that stick out. I mean, we have several parades a year, and I can see where that's good, but otherwise, it's kind of an odd feature for,
They don't get used.
I wouldn't,
They
no,
don't, they
I
just
don't
don't.
recall ever seeing people.
And I know Holland's not a big city, but in big cities, they save the facades and then they still rebuild behind historic structures, right?
Right.
And I don't know that these two facades necessarily warrant that, but it doesn't sound like the awareness or the process is even, that's not even a consideration right now on 8th Street, right? To try to
No, I can tell
look
you.
at it in that
you know,
regard.
when I was in a different seat up here, we didn't pay any attention to the National Register District.
So who does then? Because if we don't, like, we don't make any, so basically nobody's really governing.
Yeah, I guess now that I'm in this seat, I'm sort of saying,
Sure.
oh, why didn't we? We should have,
Yeah.
and what would we have done differently? I start asking sort of second guessing what we've already done, but here's the first project that's coming in and proposing
Yeah.
something that's maybe challenging.
Could you go back to the sideways picture? Is it possible to rotate just the photographs?
I don't think I can in this document.
Okay, you can't
It's
do it
all-
in,
There's, like, next to
usually
that plus
in,
button, there's
you can,
a rotate.
yeah,
This
tools
little guy's
right
gonna
there.
do it?
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah,
it might do the
but
whole
yeah,
document.
yeah, so
No.
then go back up to the street
No.
photograph.
It's
gonna
this.
flip.
It'll flip all of them, but
Yeah, but we
Please.
want to look at the one that has
Yeah.
the picture of the
Yeah.
existing street,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
There.
because the building on the left really does have some interesting, I mean, that,
Cornice work.
yeah,
Yes.
that's not just a junky, the one on the right, I agree, is like, ugh, what happened to that?
But I think what's interesting about downtown is that when you walk downtown, each building has like its own character and
Mhm.
is a mark
Yeah.
in time. And even with the little, cutout on this one and the detail work and then the Jimmy John's being in that brick facade one, it's just the image, this is just my opinion, the image of what you showed as a suggestion is so anywhere USA, false sense of history without the brick, because it's all that lick of brick, which is the same, I'm guessing, which is the same kind of thing when you walk all the way down West 8th Street and then you turn the corner and then there's just that vast expanse of naked concrete.
Facing the Civic Center?
That's kind of discussion in our house.
I know, yeah, sure it is.
Yeah.
Someday.
Someday, right? Anyway, I worry about our downtown losing the very character that I think draws people there when it's all genericized. Because at one point, and again, this is only my opinion, and I know we're not asked to weigh in on this, but the suggestion of what they've proposed and what we see on West 8th Street will be a marker in time, and it'll all be the same marker in time, just like it's why we're redoing the Hayworth Inn right now, because at least the fascia of it and everything we're doing internally, because that's a marker in time as well. All those buildings were built at the exact same time, and you can tell, but these renovations are all happening at the same time too, and you'll be able to tell. Just my opinion.
I guess I don't know the design professional, but I'm kind of disappointed that there's not a little bit more research into it, or just, you guys know what I mean when I say they say the facades, right?
Yeah, for
Like,
some
Yeah.
reason.
I'm not advocating for it one way or another, but it doesn't look like what they did is too much different. And if it's way different than what we do at this table, like we don't talk about that. We don't talk about demoing the behind and saving just the aesthetics at the front. But it doesn't sound like there's even discussion along those lines. So, I mean, in the past when we had Black River, we've had other locations where we didn't really have influence over it, but Grace would issue letters of opinion. We never really get any feedback from those.
No.
No,
I don't know if they
think
do
they wanna
anything
hear
or
it.
if people recycle them, if they're just perpetuating a stereotype that it's hard to work with us, or I don't know. But what do you think an appropriate reaction would be?
Well, my plan because I'm asked specifically to react, is to react to it.
Okay.
I want to have this conversation. But I think it's a bigger question, it's really for the commission. On this building, to some degree, although you have no authority, it doesn't mean you can't offer your comments and remind them that it's historic district and, you know, that there are ways to look at buildings and, you know, kind of get into that conversation. But maybe even more so, just to keep putting the flag in the sand and saying, you know, this is a historic district, you should be looking at these things. And when staff looks at it, they should be identifying these as historic. And that box should have been checked so that the developer could come in and say, yes, I paid attention to the historic district, and this is what I did in response to that.
Yeah.
Now they'll, you know, if we raise the question, they'll carve their presentation to say, yes, and we put brick on because of historic. I mean, they'll shape the conversation to try to address it. But, but I think it's important putting this.
There are some 90s era buildings on 8th Street that I think I have a pretty discerning eye for this. Had no idea they were from the 90s because they were done with such sensitivity and quality. The little appendage to the Fifth Third Bank, which is right across the street from this, is actually from the 90s.
With the
Which blew
ATM,
my
the
mind when I
ATM
heard
is
that.
in it.
I don't know if the ATM is in
I think
there.
it's in that.
It
same-
is.
yeah.
But it's this subordinate sort of sidecar to that great bank facade, and it, you know, one could argue that sets up a false sense of history, but it's also just a great urban building. And I think that if we want to allow trades like masonry and traditional design to still exist, they need to be allowed to work in this space. So I don't know the design professional that did this either, but the building on the right-hand side I thought was more sensitive than the building on the left-hand side for some reason, but I didn't think it was a bad effort. But that's kind of me. That's kind of beside the point. The point I want to make is that this was a super close call, because you could have had a developer decide that they wanted to reinvent that one or that one, and it would have been just as susceptible to these ones. And it happens that these ones are more obviously good candidates for redevelopment, but we have no protection over something like this, which is a
No.
precious building.
Yeah.
For our community, based
Or the
on
one next to
the
it.
masonry heritage and based on the materials that are local and in that DNA. And I'm really worried about the Bell Telephone building,
Yes.
because
we
I
should
think
be.
that one is sitting duck for this kind of thing, and it has no protection from within the city.
I think there would have been a much different reaction had they come in with this or that as part of a
Maybe.
redevelopment.
Maybe, but maybe not.
Yeah,
You
true.
know what I,
Maybe
you know?
not.
The-
Yeah.
Or you
I-
look across the street and you've got Tierman's, and then you've got Festini's, and then you've got the Warner wine, which the building isn't, you wouldn't, I mean, the building doesn't look that different from one of these, and that's wedged in between that, and then I'm trying to think of how much this one is. And
So-
what
I
was
think that's
Moynihan
probably just
get?
a reaction to the current state of the buildings a little bit too, though. I mean, if you're doing a true historical preservation or like study of what these buildings once looked like, what's underneath the ephes or whatever that material is, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm not saying that building's as beautiful as the ones next to it, but I think that's the most disappointing part to me, is that even the design professionals or the city officials aren't guiding. Like, that boxes should already be checked if it's a project that's
Yeah.
That's
going
in that.
on 8th Street. So, I guess you just let us know what you need from this group
Yeah.
after you sort of express the, hey, we talked about it at the December meeting, and we know we don't have any authority over the decisions, but we'd really
Yeah.
like to reiterate that.
How about, I'm planning to write something tomorrow, so why don't I write something, send it out to all of you, and just comment, add, delete, you know, I just want to make sure I'm capturing thoughts accurately on it, and it's as much, it will be addressed to the planning commission, because that's where all these comments will end up. DDA's comments will end up there as well. Maybe I'll copy the DDA on it as well, but just so that we're on record as saying this is a significant issue for us.
And it seems like it also goes back to that discussion we had about, you know, when somebody looks at these properties, how do they understand that it's part of something that's on the National Historic Register? You know, if it's not on the parcel description, or, you know, is there a way, again, you know, to get that information so that they're automatically having to respond to the fact that it's a historic property. I mean, at least collectively, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same as the MLS discussion.
Yeah, right. I mean, all
how
those
the
things.
property is not automatically flagged as historic.
Yeah,
property,
Right.
and they
yeah.
put
Or
that
do
in
we
all
come
this
up with a
stuff.
medallion or something that is a national registered district sort of medallion and mark them?
Celebrate it.
Put it better
With a
than-
number maybe,
Yeah.
maybe, goes with the map and.
Yeah, celebrate them.
Interesting.
Okay.
I
will
like
do
that
and
flag in
get
the
that out.
sand.
This next one, review of proposed work. Andrew, you were referring to that during the meeting. I'd like to pick up January and see if we can get everybody there and get into that discussion in some detail. Nick, I think I still owe you your copy back, but I think everybody else has their copies. So that's my plan on this next one. And a tour, I'm just not sure. I'd like to get into the downtown and have the conversation about downtown. I'd also like to get into the historic district and all the non-contributing buildings. I know you've had that discussion before. I don't know if you walked the district or looked at all of those properties, so I just, there's two aspects to a tour, and it's also getting colder.
Yep.
So.
Be doing it by
quite sure.
bicycle, apparently.
Yeah. E-bike.
Seems like a good time.
Christmas.
January and February are typically
Too
lighter.
domestic about the
Months
second
after
story.
applications, right?
Mhm.
Should be.
for 8th Street. That domestic character can be in the back.
Right, like they're all towards the back. But that just feels like the
So
same
how did we
thing.
do on time?
Pretty good. It's
Well, it's
6:32.
the wooden stick.
Are we?
Yeah.
We're at the end, right?
Yep.
Shepherd
I
this.
mean, that,
A
Oh,
little better.
yeah.
It depends
Well-
because like
Then
yeah, but look at the doors and the window.
the January
I don't
meeting
know,
is
and
the
and
7th,
shape,
right?
I'm like,
Yes.
okay, it's pretty.
So it's a little later
It's
in
to
the,
be expected.
in the month.
It's
It'll be
not.
good.
that's
Get
the
through the
problem.
holidays, and I guess we just
Whereas
need
the
a
other buildings
motion
have
to adjourn, and we can all head to the
ups and
parade.
downs.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Support.
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes.